and my responsibility. Nobody else's. But then again, we go on to verse 46 where he says this, that every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. I've heard many pastors preach on this particular passage. And when they get to this point, they say, that means you're supposed to come to church because that's what the temple courts are. But they're wrong. Point out wrong. Remember, Christians in Jerusalem, Judaism was the religion. Because Jesus had showed up did not mean that all of Jerusalem flipped over and said, all right, now we're going to worship Jesus. Actually, that's exactly what didn't happen, right? Because it says that Jesus came to his own people. His own people did not accept him, and as a result, the Gentiles were able to receive the gospel. So what does it mean that the Christians were meeting in the temple courts? Well, they met on the east side of Solomon's temple, which is where a great deal of commerce happened. In fact, if you remember, Jesus is the one who goes through and throws a bunch of tables around because he said, you've made my Father's house a house of prayer into a den of robbers. And in this very place where the Christians met was under the auspices of great oppression, where they were not welcome and where commerce happened. Which means that Christians met at their workplace. Christians met at Starbucks, at the shopping mall, at the bar downtown. That's where they were meeting. You and I have been commissioned to do the same thing. My question is how did we get from that to what we would call American Christianity today? Membership in the United States of America for Christian churches goes like this. It hasn't grown in the last decade. It's at 0%. But churches are growing all over the place. Call that can't be true. Well, here's what happens. Disgruntled people from other churches move to another church and move their membership there. But the amount of people who are actually getting saved and who are being discipled in churches, that number is ridiculously low. Why? Because we're not meeting at Starbucks anymore. And we're not meeting in our neighborhoods anymore. And we're not meeting at the bar downtown. Sunday morning is what we call church. And now don't get me wrong, Sunday morning is very important. It's where we are able to worship God, gather together, and be lifted up by the preached word. But it says that every day they met in the temple courts. It wasn't once a week, ladies and gentlemen. It was every day. You and I are commissioned people. Declare worthy. And real quick, what I want to show you guys is over here. We've got two circles. And you see those on your message notes as well. And what we've been talking about today is communion over here. And then over here we've got commission. And God has created it in this passage that when communion and commission collide, there's something that happens. We call that community. I was commissioned to do that. Community occurs when commission and community collide. That's the only time it happens. Community doesn't happen when we gather together and play bunco. That's not community. Community isn't when you have a couple of guys over calling, the men are getting together, honey, it's men's ministry, and then we go watch the Florida football game. That's not community. Community isn't going outside and playing flag football. It's not what it is. Community is an intentional thing that only happens when a holy, sacred group of people called apart by God join together, gather together, understanding their commission, and allow these things to mix in each other. Then you get community. And what happens when God's people are people that have community? Well, in verse 43, we see some really cool things. The first thing is this. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. Miracles don't happen because the guy on TV who sells you the green prayer rag says that they will, okay? Miracles happen because community occurs as a result of communion and commission. That's when you see miracles. And how great would it be if verse 47 was true of the American church today? Praising God and enjoying the favor of all people. Sat down with a friend a couple of days ago. He's an atheist, and we just got to talking about faith and religion and who Jesus is and how he's separate from all of that. And how a relationship with Jesus is completely different. And he looked at me and he said, that's great. That's really good. But I don't know if I can believe it. I was like, well, what's your experience been with church? And he's like, well, none growing up. My mom was an alcoholic. We really didn't really understand the church thing. And I've been going recently to church. And I was like, so what are your thoughts? He's like, those people really love each other. Like, they're really, really nice. They seem to enjoy life a whole lot. And I was like, well, what do you think about that? He's like, well, I keep on coming. That's a miracle. But you see, he's got a brother. And his brother considers himself an anti-theist, which means not only does he not agree with the idea that God can even exist. Atheists are pretty much God does not exist. This guy is to a point where he says, if you believe in God, you are an idiot, and I will put you in your place every single time you mention your name. His story goes a little bit like this. Went to church, got burned. And I wonder what happened. Communion and commission didn't collide. Because one man has experienced community and he wants more of it. Another man didn't experience community. And he says enough is it. To gain the favor of all people, that means that those who deny Jesus Christ still think the church is a pretty cool place. It would mean that you and I could link arms with people who are in doing things that are maybe for a good cause and don't even believe in Jesus, but they see something in the church that they like. It said that they gained the favor of all people, not some people. Not when it was convenient, but every person. Listen to this. The same people who hung Jesus and yelled, crucify him, crucify him. Those people found favor with those who gathered in community. That's the type of community I want to be part of. The Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. What happens when communion and commission collide? It looks a lot like the next slide. Pastor Tom allowed me to do something a couple of months ago when I first came to Orlando that I thought was awesome. He allowed me to start a community group of sorts. It was like 6 people. My parents were 2 of them, so they just kind of showed up. They were supposed to be college. We'll support you. And that was it. And we sat down and we broke bread together. And all we did was go through the model that was in Acts 2:14-47. We sat down and we had dinner every Tuesday night. We were devoted to God's Word. We read through the book of 1 John and spoke about it and communicated about it. And we prayed for one another. And then the fall hit. And then we started going through the book of James. And if you're a part of that community, or have visited that community, or done anything with that community, if you could just stand up for a minute, I want to see you. What you see here is a group of people, you guys can be seated, who did not know each other. A group of people who, I'm sure if you have been in this church for a while and you look at the faces on there, you probably don't know who a lot of those people are. Why? Because communion and commission collided, and all of a sudden you had people who didn't know Jesus knowing Jesus. And all of a sudden you had people who were kind of marginal in their faith, really passionate about it. And then you had people who had never said a word in a Bible study before, asking some great questions. And then all of a sudden you had people who were painting my house because I needed help, and they were the first ones there.